Hi and welcome back to the channel. You're here with Travel with Carl for another flight review. This time I'm flying on a very small airline in far North Queensland, Australia. I'll be taking Hinterland Aviation on board one of their Cessna 208 Caravans from Townsville across to the remote community on Palm Island. Join me as I fly about 60 kilometres offshore on this 23-minute flight to Palm Island. The flight with Hinterland Aviation starts from their own small terminal within the general aviation area of Townsville Airport. It's located right across the road from the Royal Flying Doctor Service and behind the Virgin Australia pet check-in area. Inside the terminal is a check-in counter and a small waiting room and bathrooms where I waited for my flight. It's simple, but it does what it needs to do for this short flight. Here I am at Hinterland Aviation, about to take a flight over to Palm Island. I checked in, I had to take my whole bag weighed and my sub weighed. Fortunately they don't tell you the weight because that would be scary after all the sex I've had. But yeah, pretty excited to fly over to Palm Island for a few hours. Prior to boarding, a safety demonstration video is played in the waiting room, which runs the few passengers for our flight through all the necessary safety features of a single-engine Cessna 208 Caravan, as well as some scenic views that you'll see on the flight. Today's flight is Hinterland Aviation 0172 and it takes us from Townsville across to Palm Island. Once the safety briefing is complete, staff lead us out onto the tarmac for the short walk across to our waiting aircraft. On boarding, there's a section at the back of the plane to put all carry-on baggage in before finding a seat in the cosy cabin of 4 rows laid out in a 1-2 configuration. The pilot is sitting up front getting the aircraft ready for departure as I board. With only a few people on board, we're ready for departure pretty quickly. After the engine started up, the pilot gave the thumbs up to the ground crew, who disconnected us from the ground and made our taxi towards the runway. As we waited for our turn to take off, an Embraer 170 from Air North landed. Air North is another local airline I'm keen to review soon. It was time for a very short takeoff run before we launched into our 23-minute flight across to Palm Island. Surprisingly, there's no service on board this 23-minute hop across to Palm Island. Shortly after takeoff, we crossed the coast and then cruised pretty much at cloud level for the duration of the flight. We passed Magnetic Island to the right before heading straight for Palm Island. Cruising at about 3,000 feet, nowhere near the service ceiling of 25,000 feet that this aircraft is capable of, we aren't far above the beautiful blue waters of the Coral Sea. It's a smooth flight with very few bumps, even when we pass through the clouds. Despite being a single-engine aircraft, the solo seats are quite comfortable and there is enough legroom to not feel squished in. There's no toilet on board, but for a 23-minute flight, it's really not needed. I read the in-flight safety card and gazed out the window on what is a very short flight. Hinterland Aviation run a shuttle service between Townsville and Palm Island each weekday with up to 12 flights a day. However, there's no flights on weekends. It's not long until we're on approach for landing into the small strip on Palm Island. It's an amazing view looking over the pilot's shoulder as the runway nears. On landing, it's a short taxi to the terminal, where the aircraft remains running for a quick turnaround for the next flight. The terminal is pretty basic here. It has bathrooms, an open waiting room, and staff who meet and greet each flight. As an aviation geek, I really enjoyed the flight on such a small aircraft on a short route. On arrival, I went for a walk into town along the rural road. There were some amazing viewpoints on the way looking back over the coast. Palm Island is not a tourist destination, but I'm glad I visited to see the views and experience the community, as well as the interesting flight. Later that day, I walked back into the airport for an early flight home. The staff were pretty flexible and allowed me to move to an early flight back to Townsville as there was plenty of open seats available. A one-way ticket costs around $89 for a cheap ticket or $144 for flexible fares. On a dollar per kilometre basis, that's pretty expensive, but when the alternative is a 3-hour ferry ride, it's pretty convenient. Due to the pandemic, Palm Island Aboriginal Shire Council is requesting that all passengers assess their needs to travel to Palm Island unless vaccinated. I really enjoyed taking the trip. I hope you've enjoyed this vlog, and if you like them, hit the subscribe and like button. I really appreciate it. I'll see you on the next flight somewhere.